joining us in Newsmax. How are you?
Great. Glad to be with you, Greg. Thanks.
Senator, I don't know if you're aware of this, but right now, Newsmax, Fox News, OAN, we're under some fire from Democrats in the House of Representatives. They've reached out to cable providers. They've accused us of providing misinformation when we were only providing the facts during the period before the election and after the election, before the inauguration. There's a real push to get conservative media kicked off of certain platforms. Are you aware of this? And I'd love to get your thoughts on the whole ordeal, if you are familiar.
Yeah. Well, the one thing I want you to know that you and your listeners are going nowhere. This is an effort by a couple of Democrats who are seeking publicity and destroying America as we know it at the same time. Can you imagine if I wrote a letter to somebody saying MSNBC and CNN needs to go because they spread disinformation? I wouldn't worry about it. It's going nowhere. You're in good shape. Your audience is growing, and you got a lot of people who have your back. I promise you that this is not going to happen. It's a couple of Democrats trying to, be the liberal hero for 15 minutes, and it will pass.
Well, I'm so glad I asked you, Senator Graham, because someone of your stature and your experience expressing that, and the Democrats.
We got your back. We got your back.
We appreciate it very, very much. So, Senator, I'm going to now speak for some of our viewers. They have reached out to us. They like you a lot. Right now, they're not that crazy about Senator Mitch McConnell. We all saw the speech he made in the aftermath of the acquittal of the president, or leading up to the acquittal. And they don't think he should, quite frankly, have a leadership position. I know he's been there a long time. I know you probably get along with him. But what are your thoughts right now on Mitch McConnell and Senate leadership in the future?
Well, let's break it down. Number one, what he said Saturday after the acquittal, I don't agree with. I mean, that's his opinion. I don't think it's reflective of the Republican conference. But, he's an individual senator. He can have his say. I remind the viewers that Senator McConnell, working with President Trump, they did a lot. We got a bunch of judges on, 3 Supreme Court justices. We cut taxes without one Democratic vote. So Mitch and President Trump worked well together. January the 6th, I don't blame President Trump. I blame the people that defiled the Capitol, and I'm ready to move on. In 2022, we got a chance to pick up the House and the Senate. Just imagine if we had one more Republican senator who had won one of those two races in Georgia, we would be stopping this COVID package of $1.9 trillion that's got very little to do with COVID. So at the end of the day, I'm looking forward, not backward. I'm going to talk to Senator McConnell in the coming days. We need to work together. I spent the weekend with President Trump. He's more determined than ever to grow this party, not shrink it. He is the most dominant voice in the Republican Party, not Mitch McConnell, not Lindsey Graham. His ideas will stand the test of time. I'm looking forward to his speech at CPAC Sunday. I hope we can rally around President Trump as the most consequential Republican, the alternative to Joe Biden at this point in time. And I hope President Trump will come out with a policy positions that all of us can get around, can unite around, including Mitch McConnell. So that's my hope.
Well, I'm so glad you spent time with him, and we are looking forward to that speech. Joe Biden, you worked with him in the Senate for a long time, and when he was in the Senate, he had a reputation of a moderate, middle-class Joe, a guy who you could get along with. We've not seen that. We didn't see it really during the campaign. Now as president, your sense right now, is Joe Biden really in charge, or did he make some sort of deal with the far left, as it seems to me, and he's just kind of along for the ride? What's your sense of what's happening right now?
The policy agenda coming out of the Biden administration is beyond radical. So President Trump came up with the idea to have asylum seekers wait in Mexico until their court date came up in the United States. The old policy was you come to the United States, you claim asylum, we'll process you, release you in the United States. Your hearing will be 4 years down the road because there's 1 million+ backlog in asylum cases. People would never show up. Trump stopped that by having Mexico to keep people in Mexico until their court date. Guess what? People stopped coming because they're not going to pay $20,000 or $30,000 to stay in Mexico. They want to come here. Well, Biden's about to undo the Remain in Mexico policy. He stopped construction of the wall where it has holes in it. The $1.9 trillion COVID package has got a $15 minimum wage increase, double the minimum wage. That will put small businesses out of business. Canceling the Keystone Pipeline is going to devastate our energy independence. So I like Joe Biden, but the agenda is AOC, Pelosi, Schumer, and Bernie Sanders. And I think we're going to win in 2022 because what they're doing on the border and by changing the Remain in Mexico policy, you're going to create a wave of illegal immigration like you had a couple of before Trump came in. I'll make a prediction that immigration will be the biggest issue in 2022, just like it was in 2016. If we can get our act together, we're going to take over the House and the Senate. So no, I don't think Joe Biden's in charge.
Senator, you kind of warned about this a while back. I think it was, quite frankly, your finest moment. I was quite frankly proud of the U.S. Senate and our institutions when you stuck up for then Judge Kavanaugh in a pretty dramatic way. Actually, I have that moment right here.
The most unethical sham since I've been in politics. And if you really wanted to know the truth, you sure as hell wouldn't have done what you've done to this guy. Are you a gang rapist? No. I cannot imagine what you and your family have gone through. Boy, y'all want power. God, I hope you never get it.
Again, sir, you know, you were just speaking for millions of Americans coast to coast. I'm sorry if that brings up unpleasant memories, but now that they've gotten the power,
it's okay.
Are you as concerned as you were back then?
Yes. So look what they've done. Working together, we passed 3 COVID relief bills because the country needs it. The PPP program to help small businesses with loans, money for vaccines, $4 trillion passed in a bipartisan manner. Now they're in charge. They have it all. A $1.9 trillion package that's got checks for people that make $250,000. Money for schools that doesn't kick in to 2021, 2022, and goes all the way to 2028. A $15 an hour minimum wage increase. What's that got to do with COVID? Money for museums, a liberal wish list. So yeah, my worst fears are coming true. They've canceled the Keystone Pipeline. They're stopping construction of border wall that we need. They're changing policies at the border to encourage more illegal immigration. They're talking about getting back into the Iran deal. So everything I worried about is coming true, but we can stop it if we can get the House and the Senate back in 2022. And we need President Trump to help us. Without him, we cannot get there.
Senator Lindsey Graham, many, many thanks. Great to finally talk to you, Republican of South Carolina. To be continued, sir. All the best.
Thank you. Thank you. To be continued. Thanks.
And we'll be right back. America's newest superstar on the right joins us, Congressman Madison Cawthorn. We had him here when he was just a candidate a couple of months ago. Madison, congratulations on your victory. It's been, what, about 2 months now, a little less? How does it feel to be a congressman?
Greg, I'll tell you, it's the honor of a lifetime. I get to represent 730,000 hardworking, God-fearing, moral Americans, and there's nothing better than to get to represent them up here. But I will tell you, Washington, D.C. is not my favorite place. It is filled with people who hate the American identity, and they want to change it.
By the way, you are, I think, technically the youngest or one of the youngest ever. Are you 26 now? How old are you? Forgive me, but how old are you?
No, I'm 25 currently, so I'm the youngest ever elected. There was somebody appointed younger than me.
Yeah, I think you got to be 25 though legally to be anyway. Congratulations! It's a huge, huge accomplishment. Let's talk a little bit about the shelter situation at the border. I know you care very much about border security. It looks like it's being dismantled, but by the Biden administration. Yet, strangely enough, they seem to be adopting or at least keeping some of the infrastructure of the Trump administration.
Oh, and it's not necessarily even the Trump administration. These soft-sided enclosures are built by the Obama administration, these cages they put children in. and it's just left over from a administration that Joe Biden previously worked on. So I do have to say, at least he has those in place. But what he's doing at the border is terrifying. The new policies that are coming out with these executive orders are just shipping illegal immigrants deeper into the home territory of America, where there's less ICE agents and there's less chance of them being caught. It puts Americans at risk.
So here's Jen Psaki, the administration spokesperson, trying to put a spin on something that is really hard to spin.
That Kamala Harris said that this facility, putting people in this facility, was a human rights abuse committed by the United States government. And Joe Biden said, under Trump, there have been horrifying scenes of at the border of kids being kept in cages. Now it's not under Trump, it's under Biden.
This is not kids being kept in cages. This is kids. This is a facility that was opened that's going to follow the same standards as other HHS facilities. It is not a replication, certainly not. That is never our intention of replicating the immigration policies of the past administration, but we are in a circumstance where we are not going to expel unaccompanied minors at the border. That would be inhumane. That is not what we are going to do here as an administration.
All right. Good luck with that. It just sounds like they're kind of caught, doesn't it?
Well, Greg, honestly, I had no idea that she could say words aside from "I'll circle back." That was one of the most surprising things I've heard, because you know the immigration policies that they are pushing are ones that encourage putting unaccompanied minors in the trunk of cars, unaccompanied young girls in a situation where they are at a high risk of being raped, and unaccompanied minors in a situation where if a Republican was to do it, they would call us dangerously inhumane. We have got to change what's going on at the border. We've got to change our immigration policy, but we have to lock down our southern border. It's paramount.
Hey, by the way, the COVID, let's get your take on the COVID relief bill at this point. It's huge and lots of concerns in here. What's your position right now? How do you intend to vote?
Greg, I can't in good conscience vote for this bill. They continue to say that it is a COVID relief bill. But at the end of the day, it's filled with pork that goes outside of America, sends stimulus checks to illegal immigrants. It doesn't take care of hurting small businesses. And over half of it, I believe 60% of it, goes to issues that really don't have anything to do with COVID-19. And at the end of the day, Greg, I've got to tell you a question I'm pondering. I'm here on Capitol Hill. I've continued to look around for this $1.9 trillion they say we have. But I just don't know where it's coming from. So what that means is that the American people they say they are helping are in the end going to have to foot the bill for this $1.9 trillion wasteful spending bill.
Hey, speaking of COVID, very interesting, and there's probably a lot of truth to it, but somebody said it out loud. A Biden advisor, it's in a new book. Let's go ahead and put it on the screen if we can. This is from Anita Dunn. Reportedly, she said this in a new book by two very well-established and respected journalists, actually, Jonathan Allen and Amy Barnes. COVID is the best thing that ever happened to him. Speaking of Joe Biden. Very interesting that they should say that out loud. A lot of people believe that they did exploit the coronavirus and that he never would have been elected had it not been for the coronavirus, and they seem to know that.
Well, at the end of the day, you know what? This is the classic Democrat ploy. Never let a good tragedy or emergency go to waste. You saw they made hay when the sun was shining from COVID-19 to be able to shut down our economy, to be able to make Americans live in fear. I mean, understand this. We're almost at the year anniversary of 15 days to slow the spread. And I'll tell you, I understood having to take a couple weeks for people to have infrastructure and logistic matters catch up. But what they did to us this entire previous year was they forced our businesses to close. They forced people to not be able to feed their families. They kept us from assembling. They kept us from being able to go to our churches to worship. It was tyrannical, and it set a very dangerous precedent moving forward for our children.
So, Congressman, I know at one point you were on your way to the Naval Academy. You had a very tough car accident, and you lost the use of your legs, and you're in a wheelchair. Forgive me for going, but it looked like it was the worst thing. And look at you now. You're a member of Congress. Admirals at the Pentagon are going to be nervous when they come to see you, and you were just a midshipman potentially. do you believe that was somehow a blessing in disguise?
You know what? That's caused so much pain in my life that it's hard to say that it was a blessing. But at the end, you can't look at my life and say that it was not ordained by God, that he didn't have his hand playing in it in some way. I'm a very fervent Christian. I believe in his will in our life at all times. But, really at the end of the day, what our lives come down to, and he gives us free will, is personal responsibility. And so people across America who believe that, some certain ethnic group is the reason for all the problems in their life, or that it's because of big government of all the problems in their life. Greg, I believe that over 80% of the issues we face are self-inflicted. And our lives are completely predicated on the fact of how we respond to tragedy happening in our life. And so I encourage everyone who's going through a hard time, specifically people who are in a wheelchair. Life is hard, and I will say life sucks in a lot of ways. But there are sparkling surprises at every single turn on this arduous journey we're on. And I encourage everyone who's considering giving up, don't do it. Just like the good days never last, neither do the bad. And if you continue moving forward, if you continue working day by day, and you take personal responsibility for what's going on in your life, you will find yourself being able to achieve great things.
Amazing, Congressman. I'm sorry, I want to catch that statistic one more time. 80% of self-inflicted, 80% of what again? Sorry?
I believe 80% of what happens to us in our lives is really self-inflicted, and it's predicated on the fact of how we respond to tragedy happening in our life.
Well, thank you very much, Congressman. Continued success, and come back soon, okay?
Absolutely. Greg, thank you, brother.
All the best, brother. Take care. We'll be right back. In a lot of different ways. One of them is this new documentary. It's called The Trump I Know. It's available on Amazon Prime. Let's go ahead and take a look at the poster if we have one. And there it is, The Trump I Know. And I think it's told from a very unique perspective. Let's find out from the directors, a husband and wife team, Joy and Matt Thayer. Welcome to Newsmax. Congratulations. How are you guys?
Doing well. Thanks for having us on your show.
All right, now first up, we're going to play the trailer, and you can always tell whether a movie is good or not by the trailer. So we're going to play it in its entirety. But tell us a little bit of how this all came about, if you don't mind. And it seems particularly focused on the women. Am I wrong?
You are not wrong. That's exactly who it's focused on. When we started this project back in 2016, I hadn't voted for President Trump, nor did I vote for Hillary, but I was very interested in hearing from the women in his campaign, in his businesses, and in his family. What was the truth about this man, and what was I hearing from mainstream media, and were those two things lining up? And what I have found was those two things were not lining up, that this man has been consistent for over decades, and who he is and what he believes in for bringing greatness to America.
And she's become a Trump fan now. So.
Obviously.
Okay, so yeah, not the pride. Did you vote for him in 2020, Matt?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Voted for him in 2020. I actually also didn't vote for him in 2016. Didn't vote for Hillary either. But the journey of this film comes a lot out of my own personal journey of just looking for the truth and wanting to find the actual facts rather than just listening to people's opinions.
Well, if you listen to people's opinions, and especially the left-leaning media, he's a misogynist, he's a racist, he's the worst person in the world. But we know better, and it's so vividly portrayed, I believe, in this Amazon Prime. It's, wow, I'm really impressed. Which one of you is the cinematographer? I mean, this was just really vivid. It was so visually interesting.
Well, we had an amazing team. The cinematographer, Jordan Bogart, actually was the one that captured all the shots. I was the director. Joy was the producer, kind of wrangling all the cats behind the scenes. But it really was a journey. We kind of approached this. I told my team, this is going to be like a wildlife documentary. Like we really didn't know what we were going to be filming from one day to the next. And everything that is in this documentary is as authentic as we could get it, because there was times where, within a day, all of a sudden we'd find out like, oh, this person's available. And we'd go in, it was completely unscripted. These people were just speaking from their hearts. And it was truly, truly amazing. Well,
congratulations. I know it's tough to get something like this done, and it looks like the results are spectacular. The Trump I Know, available on Amazon Prime. And congratulations, okay? Good stuff. What's next? You got a part two?
Yeah, we've got a few things up our sleeves. It's really important to us, as you guys even know at Newsmax, telling the truth and getting it out there is one of the biggest things that we're combating right now. Is the mainstream media doesn't want to have the truth. It's going against the narratives that they're putting out there, and they're trying to censor and keep everything quiet as much as possible. But we're just not going to be afraid of that. We're going to actually go out there and we're going to tell stories that matter.
Yeah.
Admire that so much, respect that so much, and thank you, Joy and Matt Thayer. Continued success, all the best, okay?
Thanks,
Thanks, Greg.
You bet.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, looking forward to this. All right, hey, Stinchfield is standing by. Stinchfield has a TV show that the president watches. In fact, he showed it at a rally Senator Joe McCarthy went after communists. You know what's happening in Congress right now? They're coming after conservative media. They are. This is not a joke. It should be, but it's actually happening. We're going to push back. I don't like this at all. You shouldn't like this because guess what? They're trying to deprive you of us, Newsmax, and OAN and Fox News. We prefer that you watch us, but we want them to exist. And Democrats in Congress don't right now.
We should all be concerned about any source that helps spread disinformation, conspiracy theory, and lies. And that's why I sent a letter with Representative Eshoo asking cable, satellite, and streaming providers the questions to understand how disinformation spreads and the role of various companies in enabling its spread.
All right. Now, fortunately, this is Congressman Nobody. I mean, McInerney. I never heard of him. Wears a bow tie. But what he calls disinformation and lies, well, guess what? Some of that information is just information he disagrees with, or he might have a different opinion on. We'll go through this, but he mentioned the letter. Let's go through that. This letter is dangerous stuff. A couple of the points here. He sent these to cable companies. How many of your subscribers tuned in to Fox News, Newsmax, and OANN on UVerse, DirecTV, and AT&T TV for each of the 4 weeks preceding the November 3rd, 2020 elections and the January 6th, 2021 attacks on the Capitol? Please specify the number of subscribers that tuned in to each channel. Number one, little Orwellian, huh? I mean, really, what business is it of theirs? But the government seeking this kind of information? It gets worse, though. Next point in this letter, please. What steps did you take prior to, on, and following the November 3rd, 2020 elections and the January 6th, 2021 attacks to monitor, respond to, and reduce the spread of disinformation, including encouragement or incitement of violence by channels your company disseminates to millions of Americans? Please describe each step that you took and when it was taken. So many leaps here. They're telling companies what to do regarding content, privately generated content. Finally, this. Are you planning to continue carrying Fox News, Newsmax, and OAN on UVerse, DirecTV, and AT&T TV, both now and beyond any contract renewal date? If so, why? Why are you planning to continue carrying Newsmax? Scariest part of this letter, the most disturbing part, isn't really the content because they can't pull this stuff off. I think I know enough about the world and the way it works, and these are two fairly minor league members, but that they dare to do it like this. The most dangerous part is the letterhead, the Congress of the United States, Washington, D.C., that they're asking these kinds of questions and applying pressure on private companies to pull us off. And we did nothing that they're accusing us of. Nothing. They lied about the president. Now they're lying about us. Now they call it, interestingly, yes, they call it the big lie. Now, what is the big lie according to them? Anybody who raised questions about the legitimacy and the fairness of the November 3rd election. Look, we had a lot of questions. So did you about what happened on November 3rd. In our gut, we had a sense that this may not have been fair. Want to review real quick? You saw the results. Let's take a look at them, please. We had 69 million votes for Barack Obama, one of the most, look, whether you like him or not, he was a gifted politician. On the far right there, 74 million votes for Donald Trump. And look at all those counties he won. For Joe Biden, and we saw the lack of crowds, lack of enthusiasm, all that stuff, but somehow he got 81 million votes. They say raising questions about this and pursuing those questions that we were somehow part of the what? The big lie? Here's actually the big lie. They say that by raising those questions, we contributed to the violence that happened on January 6th. That's the lie, everybody. Maybe if those questions, maybe if they didn't try to stifle those questions or accuse everybody who raised those questions of being a traitor, maybe that would have helped. Maybe that would have helped. I have these questions, and you know who else did? President Jimmy Carter. You know, we had mail-in voting like this country has never had before. And about 15 years ago, they took a look at that. Big presidential commission, Jimmy Carter, on voting by mail. It raises concerns about privacy as citizens voting at home may come under pressure to vote for certain candidates, and it increases the risk of fraud. Right there in black and white. But if you raise those questions, you are part of the big lie. The big lie. I found that bigly offensive. Fortunately, we had some heroes on that committee today. I really liked this member, McMorris Rogers.
New approach, a lot of media would cease to exist. Should CNN still be carried after hosting Governor Cuomo? For months, media lauded him and legitimized his lethal response to COVID-19. He even won an Emmy for his use of TV to spread misinformation. How do we know it was misinformation? Because of a balance of networks that pursued investigative journalism.
McMorris Rogers, she was very, very good today. Also, we heard from Jonathan Turley, law professor from GW, and he's fantastic.
Free speech, like other constitutional values, requires a leap of faith. A faith not only in free speech, but in each other. Citizens are capable of educating and informing themselves. They do not need politicians or corporate filters to protect them. Roughly 70 years ago, Justice William Douglas warned that the restriction of free speech is the most dangerous of all subversions. It is the one un-American act that could easily defeat us all.
Professor Turley is great. Did you hear that? What we need, not politicians, we need faith in each other. Faith in each other, or we don't need corporate filters. Good stuff. He's right up there with Professor Dershowitz. All right, so they brought in some witnesses to back up the Democrats who want to shut down Newsmax and OAN and make our lives difficult. This is Soledad O'Brien, longtime journalist. All right, these folks are pretty full of themselves, pretty full of themselves. Here we go.
Often I have found that journalists who even understand that they're having someone on whose opinion that they believe is not accurate, inaccurate, misinformation, they'll bring them on in order to argue with them. I think personally it's a way to seem tougher, but it's also good TV, meaning it's dynamic, it sometimes involves arguing, it has a lot of drama to it. Well, I believe what ends up happening by elevating disinformation, whether it's being challenged well, challenged not at all, you give a platform to something that is not true.
Okay, number one, we don't argue on this show. Have you noticed? She's talking about TV. That's 15 years ago. People don't really do that. The Crossfire show, they don't work anymore. Also, the whole part of something being true or not true, well, quite frankly, that's up to me. And I have been very clear with everybody that this is an opinion show, right? So is Congress really going to get involved in this? Or Soledad O'Brien, what's true, what's not true? Because Dr. Fauci, I mean, this is the gospel, right? Remember when he said masks don't work, and then all of a sudden, 2 masks? You need 2 masks for it to all work? Talk about disinformation. I don't know. They are giving us on the right such a hard time, but how about the left? Want to talk about disinformation that has led to violence? How about this little nugget that got repeated over and over again?